This video is going to get you started on the road to CNC machining once you have a design in Fusion 360. So as we can see, we're in the design workspace. I've created this sign that I'm going to be CNC machining. At this point, I'm ready to move over to the manufacture tab, which is where it has all the tools to create the CNC post or the G-code post. The first thing that you're going to want to do is create a setup. You can click the toolbar. You can right click on the browser. It's up to you. If you look at the menu that pops up, there's three tabs: setup, stock, post process. You're going to want to start with setup. First thing you want to do is set your machine. Now, I've pre-built our machines that we have in the classroom. If you have a different machine at home that you want to pre-build, I definitely recommend that you create it. The things that you're going to need to do it are the information about the machine, which is going to be important when it comes to tool changers, number of tools, maximum feed rates, size of the table, how far it can go from zero, and then probably most importantly is your post processor. Something is going to have to, there's essentially a program within this machine that is going to tell Fusion how to write the program for the specific machine, basically what G codes it will or won't comprehend. So you have to have the post processor, and most manufacturers you should be able to get that file. So that file kind of goes within this machine file, and once you have both of those set, the check mark tells you you have your post processor in here. We're going to set this up for the Shark HD510, and we're going to select that. And as you can see, all the information has been set here. So once we have the machine selected, and you're going to go down to setup, it's going to ask you what type of cutting operation. For CNC machining, it's all going to be milling. Then we're going to get it down into our work coordinate system. Now, this box is really important to set up. Essentially, so we're talking apples and apples with our machine. So when I'm standing in front of my part, when it's loaded into my CNC machine, the x-axis is left to right, the y-axis is front to back, and obviously the z-axis is up and down. So we want to essentially put this origin point at where our zero is going to be for the machine. That's the easiest way for me to tell students this is wherever you set this is where you're going to set zero on your CNC machine. I always like the bottom left-hand corner, and we generally always want to select the top of the stock. So you're machining into negative Z, and zero would be the top of your stock. I usually end up selecting the X and Y axes to get these points running in the right direction, but there are different options here. Sometimes you just have to play with the different options depending on what you're doing. This one actually could be a little challenging because if I don't have any straight lines, it's hard to select X's and Y's. I think you can actually use the axes this way as well to select X's and Y's. My X is actually going the right direction right now. It's my Z and Y that are a little messed up. So let's see. My x-axis is right, so let's go down to y. Let's see, that would be my y, and then my z needs to go up. So can I flip my y and turn my z up? Yes, I can. So that is the correct orientation. So x left to right, y front to back, and z up and down. But it chose the stock point on the bottom of the part, which is not what we want. So I'm going to choose it at the top of the part. And you can always come from the side and double check that you're at the top of the part. All right. When it comes to model, make sure that your component, or if you have multiple components, they're all selected. We're not going to worry about fixture, but if you did have a fixture, the way this was loaded in, you want to make sure that you didn't mill into your fixture. This is where you can add that information. Move over to the next tab of stock. Now, the really good way to think about stock is make the stock the same size as the piece of material that you're loading into your CNC machine. So if you have a 2x2 machine and you have a bunch of 2x2 blanks, then make this 2x2. So let's say 24 width, 24 length, and 0.75 thickness. Now, if you've worked with enough plywood, you probably realize that they are not all 0.75. So I would say throw a caliper on there, measure it, and put that. I'm going to put 735 because that's actually more accurate to what I've experienced. Now, if you're trying to save material, you're probably going to machine that sign closer to the bottom. So it puts offsets in here that you're going to have to move around. Sometimes you can ground it. Sometimes that doesn't work. Our width is fine. Let's see, our model position for our Y is where we need to change. So we can play with some options here and see where we go. Change the offset, and that's actually what I want. Close. Let's say offset 1 inch. So I have, or ½ inch. So I have a little bit of material. I'm not cutting it to the edge. Because I made this model as 0.75 thick, I'm going to make the envelope thick too. I just know that it's probably in reality not quite that thick. Okay, all that information set. You can essentially see the piece of wood I'm going to be cutting out of and where I'm going to be cutting it. Part position, if I wanted to change where the part was, I can move this, but I like to just do that with the fixed position. And your post-process, this is important. This is the 4-digit name of your program. Do yourself a favor and make this unique. Maybe keep a running list of your programs. And then there's a comment here, but I actually like to put the title of the project in here, as it sticks better there. It's easier to see. And I mean, you can put comments. I usually end up just putting both in. And once you click OK there, you'll see your setup. Get a green check mark. Everything looks good. And at this point, you are ready to add in the machining operations. But none of these will work right unless your setup is accurate. So just to recap here, the place where we set our origin is where we're going to set our 0 on our CNC machine. So it's important to make sure that you remember that, because when you go to the machine and set it up, you don't want to run into something or cut off your piece of wood and have a bunch of waste. So that's how you do your setup. And now one note is if you have a front and you're also machining the back, then you would do another setup for the back. Or if you were doing multiple sheets of wood, you had more parts than would fit on one piece of wood, and you're going to have another setup every time you move the board around, essentially.